Because in all reality, when you're first starting, you're mostly more heavily an integrator.
If I get comfortable and trust, I start to build trust with somebody, I would be happy.
I'm a real estate investor. I'm sharing everything I know about SubTo in a way that complete beginners understand. This guy is John Pratt, our fearless novice, diving headfirst into the world of SubTo real estate deals. Watch as I start him on the path. I'm your guide, Kyle Kargas, and this is SubTo Real Estate Secrets, the path from moron to millionaire.
Welcome to SubTo Real Estate Secrets, the path from moron to millionaire. If you're new here in real estate, a SubTo deal lets you take over the seller's mortgage payments so they can leave a property they can't afford and you get ownership without a bank. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about someone's starting role, your starting role.
It's a big episode.
It's a big episode, right? We've done a lot of back behind the scenes work.
Yeah.
We're going to touch on it a little bit because you had some homework we're going to go over. But today, it's going to be, how exciting. Substance, some decisions will be made today that will dictate what John Pratt needs to do. And you will have a fun time doing it this week to get the ball rolling. Okay?
Awesome. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thanks for coming back, right? He hasn't quit. He hasn't quit.
I almost
yet.
ran away. Yeah.
Let's get into the homework. Was kind of a multi-step thing.
Yeah.
Right? If you remember, motivation, right?
Yeah.
Baseline, create motivation was part of your homework. Report back. How did that go?
So yesterday I was with an entrepreneur friend. We have a joint venture together that we're just starting, something totally unrelated to this. But it just felt super good. There were some business problems before that, but meeting with him, just being with people who are like-minded is like a shot in the arm, for lack of a better phrase. Yeah, it's like an injection. It's like drugs. No, it just feels good to be on that, plane. Also, I was with a client earlier this week, and just him, same thing, right? He's an entrepreneur himself. He's also working a job.
Okay.
So that's interesting to see that transition.
It's so powerful to be around other people. I was actually with Pace Morby all day yesterday.
Oh, awesome.
Right? So we were at his office, right? We were going through talking about different topics. We even shot some YouTube videos and things like that. And you can, when you're around other successful people, that injection's real. So I love that. Keep going.
Yeah. Same thing on a smaller scale, Pace Morby. This is something I didn't really expect to report on.
Okay.
But it was helpful. So saying no to things I don't want to do is an energy saver. So it's not really like a boost, but it's just a non-loss.
Give me an example.
Okay, sure. So a family member had some drama they were texting around.
Okay.
I knew right away I'm not getting involved.
Okay.
in
Yes.
this. A distant family member. I just didn't get into it.
Right, yeah.
And I had to not be
Smart.
involved.
There was a choice there, though, in
Yeah.
that moment, and you chose not to get involved.
Because that's a chasm right in front of me, an energy chasm. Just hop over it, and don't go around it or something. So that's what I did. Just saved a ton of energy,
Okay,
right?
got it.
Because that could have been a weeks-long thing. So that's my motivation stuff that I've been doing this week. You also mentioned other homework, which I have.
Well, so on the motivation side,
yeah, sure.
part of it was, right, you spent time with the right people, which added motivation to you.
Yeah.
Okay. You avoided the something that would drain motivation from you or energy from you.
Yeah.
Okay. What about reading?
No, I didn't do any reading.
Okay.
I did podcasting and videos.
Okay.
Because when I put my kids to bed, I go watch useful videos.
Okay.
On YouTube. That helps.
Okay, good.
To say the least.
So
yeah.
that
Just
30 minutes,
little bit of
that
thing,
15 to 30 minutes, you did spend time.
Oh, it's like an hour.
15,
I
30
spend
minutes,
an
so
hour,
more than that, right? On something got it. And you felt motivated from doing those things.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because that's the most important part.
Yes.
Now, I would recommend still, I do think there's a time where with a book or something like that too.
Okay.
So I think if you
I didn't sit down with a book.
Correct.
Okay.
And I didn't say you specifically had to.
Okay.
So mission accomplished. You did your motivational homework. I will let you continue. Okay. Yeah. However, it's so easy sometimes when it comes to the video format to blur the lines between entertainment and the motivation,
Yeah.
right? And almost lie to ourselves.
Okay.
Okay. I do think it's important to make sure you have that check and be like, okay, maybe it's okay to let the podcast, listening to a podcast, those type of things, be it, 50% of the time, etc. But I would mix in a book, or at least make sure the podcast, whatever podcast you're doing, is extremely educational.
Oh, yes.
You came here, and how are you feeling today then, after what you just...
Like, and being here also is another one. Like, I'm in that space ever since we recorded last.
Okay.
Like,
cool.
that's all I've been thinking about.
And you maintained it. But that was part of the point we talked about. It could have maintained it over time. Naturally, it's just going to start dropping.
Yeah.
But you spend time with people, etc., reamping it, refilling up the jar, the motivational jar.
So Sunday I chill most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Monday morning is probably when it's like at its low. It's probably very normal. Monday morning is at its lowest.
Yep.
So I have to like live. Right? I can't just stop and give up. So
Extremely
I don't even
common.
know what I did on
I will
Monday
tell you,
morning,
everyone watching is going to feel the same way. Why do people talk about how Mondays are so brutal?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And it's because they think it's because they go out and have fun Monday and then, oh my gosh, I got to go back to work. The reality is you get out of your groove because of a weekend, because you weren't doing things. Now, everyone's different. They might have done some things that, I'm sure having fun and enjoyment is part of it, spending time with family, etc. But the other part is, most of the time, people aren't doing things that charge them up, motivation-wise, right? Over the weekend.
Yeah.
So then they get Monday and they're like, okay, I got to get this, but you're not in it. So, okay, so great. And you're taking action. So immediately come back here.
I have to come back.
You're
Look,
back here. You're gonna feel a little bit more motivation. just from being here and shooting this video.
My alternative is to run away forever.
Perfect.
Like, okay.
Okay, so that's the motivational homework.
Yeah.
Okay. Those have a little bit more. The next part of the homework was we left this up.
Yeah.
Okay, from last time, right?
Yeah.
This was the conveyor belt, right? That we talked about with all the pieces.
There's also the LLC homework.
And the LLC
I went
homework.
and got that too.
Okay. So what did you do with the LLC homework?
I just made an LLC, or I called the guy and he started the work to do that.
Okay,
to get
gotcha.
that done.
And I think we briefly talked about it. I think it was Prime Corporate Services is who you went with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now you can go with lots of people. The nice part about Prime Corporate Services is they know what they're doing. If you want to talk about anonymity, things like that, they can guide you on that, right? So for anyone else, we'll put a link down in the description below if that would be helpful, right? But I would say, like last time, start an LLC.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Get a bank account. Make it real. So mission accomplished. Now the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Okay. We went over it last time. We're not going to go over all the pieces today, but we went over the conveyor belt. We talked about how many pieces there are to this type of business.
Yeah.
We talked about how some people try to wear all the hats. In fact, I tried for a very long time to wear all the hats, and I did, and it slows you down. I want to point out here we have a couple X's because one of the questions I asked you last time was, hey, is there somewhere you don't, where do you see yourself? And you're like, I don't really see myself here. Yeah. However, the homework was, John, burn this into your retinas, right?
Yes.
Okay. Get familiar with it. I hope everybody else did as well. Come to me with questions about it. I want to get through those questions, and then we're going to talk, John. You're going to then get to, where do you see yourself?
Yeah.
Part 1. Now that you've looked this over, what questions do you have about the conveyor belt?
This might be a premature question, but how do I pay? Is it like per unit or per hour? How do they like to be paid?
Excellent question.
How does that? Are they in-house?
Do people work for free?
No.
No.
They have
don't.
to be paid.
Everyone has to get paid,
Yes.
right? In all reality here, there's like 8 positions.
Yeah.
So you can see, if you put people in these positions, everyone's going to want to get paid.
Yeah.
Okay? So when we go into this, and I could spend a lot of time, but what we'll say for now is there's going to be a mix to where, as an example, if you were to have your admin up here be a virtual assistant, maybe you're paying them $4 or $5, $10 an hour. Okay? If someone else is providing the lead, they could do a possible joint venture, partnering with somebody else. They might be like, hey, maybe they get 10, 20, 30% of the deal. We'll talk more into that stuff.
The deal-specific joint venture.
Deal-specific joint ventures, right? Different pieces like this. Some people will have, hey, we have an underwriter on our team. Maybe he's salary. Maybe he's a percentage of the deal. Most of the time, your sales guy is going to be a percentage, right? You want commission here, right? And they want that too.
They want that,
okay? Your transaction coordinator, a lot of times, they're just going to be a set fee.
Okay.
Unless they're on your team. This could be a salary position. This could be an hourly position, or it could be we pay per transaction. And the more complicated the transaction,
Okay.
there might be a different set fee
Okay.
for the different types, okay? A cash transaction will be different than a creative subject to transaction.
More moving pieces.
There's more moving pieces and the more people involved, okay? And so you have that. Your transaction coordination with, right? A lot of this would be there, the TC, the transaction coordinator is working here, but this is your escrow title company. Most of the time, they have a general fee that they would be charging as well. Okay, it does adjust a little bit. And then disposition, same thing. It could go from 0 if you're going to keep it as a rental. If you're going to sell it to somebody else, you might have 0 cost for disposition if you're the one, if this was your company putting on that hat. Or like I have a deal closing on Monday, I JV'd, joint ventured with someone on the disposition. So they had the buyer for that house. So the whole assignment fee that we're making, $12,000, they're going to get $5,000 of that.
So that was a joint venture between party A and B who wholesaled it to party C?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So party
And then
C
you're
being
out.
the end buyer. Correct.
You're off the deed, nothing.
Exactly. Yep. And in fact, I never got put on the. We did
was a
this whole
double
part,
end transaction.
and then the person, party B, only did this piece. So you can see every transaction can be different, right? But that was a percentage.
But they got a 5,000 out of 12, so maybe what is that? 42.
Yep. Because the
40%.
biggest, well, and we'll talk about this, but
Okay.
there's big jobs, right?
Yeah, that
But
is a
you
big
would
job.
say, typically their closer, the sales guy,
Mm-hmm.
is going to have the most important and biggest job. We talked about this last time. There is no opportunity to close the sale if these things don't happen.
Oh, yeah,
okay?
but
when you
yeah.
can pay someone possibly, $4 an hour, right? Like clearly it's not the most expensive piece, right? This is the biggest piece of the puzzle here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then usually dispositions would be next. In future episodes, we can talk more about that. But it's definitely this question, just so everyone knows, you don't need to figure all that out. That is not important necessarily for your next step.
Right.
Okay. And so we're going to talk a lot of things as we go where you're going to have to make a decision. I will take moments to answer questions because part of it is learning as you go. But it'll be important as you take in this information. The second question you got to ask yourself is always going to be, is this useful now or is this for later?
So those details are later.
Yep, those details doesn't even matter.
Okay,
Okay?
got it. Okay.
Because in all reality, when you're first starting, how much should you get paid, John?
Maybe not much.
Maybe not much.
It might be negative cash flow.
Yeah, might be negative. Would you do your first deal if you got paid 0? If someone helped you
Yes.
get your first deal, what if you made 0?
Yes. Well, 0, you're never making 0 because you're learning. And if you're in it for any sort of length of time, that's useful and valuable.
Absolutely.
And 0 is better than negative 10,000.
Absolutely. Which if you did it by yourself, could happen.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
I should say more likely to happen than not. Than partnering with somebody. The whole
Yeah.
point of partnering with somebody is to limit that exposure.
Yes.
Correct? What other conveyor belt questions did you have?
Yeah. What kind of employee? Like, are they
Yep.
contract salary?
Exactly.
Like,
So most of the time, and it depends on when you're starting, right? Maybe when you're starting and for future down the road, right? Like I said here, you might have a virtual assistant be doing your admin, okay? And that could be that $4 an hour. You have a contract, they work for you, right? Guess what? There are companies that you can pay to just provide you leads too. So do you want to just pay a company? Do you want to hire a VA? Okay, so there's different options.
the company's
right?
probably more expensive, more of a retail solution.
Exactly. If you're not having to manage somebody like a virtual assistant, well, then it should cost more. As you go down, etc. Same thing, underwriting. Most people don't hire an underwriter right away. Most people will either learn to underwrite or outsource this part yet. Well, we'll talk about more about starting because what I'm going to tell you guys in a little bit is going to be where's the best place that you should start to get into real estate investing. You might not have to worry about this part at all. Okay, but I mentioned like the TC, right? You can hire them on a per transaction basis. So I think we partially answered that question as we walk through, but basically each one can be a per deal basis expense.
Except the assistant, right? They're going to want an hourly. Okay.
If you hired a virtual assistant, then yes, that would be a per hour.
Okay, but you were saying if I buy
If you hired
leads-
a company and just bought leads,
Got it.
you could have a per month expense, right? Or
Got
per
it.
lead expense.
Okay.
Like leads, these type of things, right? You don't even have to pull your own contacts and list. If you wanted to, you could literally skip in both of these two sections here. You could just buy pre-qualified leads or you could do pay per click, pay per lead, different online services. You're not even dealing with this first position.
Yeah.
You've outsourced it now. Once again, that's not going to be free. It's not going to be someone that probably has a little bit of money. They might, if they have some money and they don't want to deal with this, they might want to start with that. Someone that's like, hey, I have no money, don't go off and pay a bunch of money and contract out, that you're going to have to do that expense.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on from that, the last part of your homework. Now that you've understood the conveyor belt, we got some questions answered. I asked you, John, where you felt like you would be a good fit. And basically you told me a few places you did not think you'd be a good fit. Now that you've had some time to think about it, where are you at now?
Yeah, so that leaves what I've thought about these last few days.
Do you still feel like...
Yeah, I still feel like that's not where I want to live.
Okay.
I want to live, what I was thinking before I got here today,
Yeah.
is underwriting and sales call. Like, I feel like if I start with those, especially with underwriting, I can start to understand, okay, or what financing for the house is not worth it. Like, and how do I dispose of or dispo a house? Like, if I learn the underwriting, that I feel like...
It gives you the answers.
Yeah, it gives me so much of a good overview of what is actually mathematically going on.
Right.
And whether something is possible.
Perfect. What you do here in underwriting would give you the answers for what you could do in disposition.
I imagine a huge Excel spreadsheet calculator thing.
Okay. Does that excite you?
Yeah, I want to know. Like, if I know all about one thing, I need to know that.
Yep.
So whether I do it or someone else, I guess someone else could do it, but I still wouldn't understand it unless I did it the first few times. And then that'll help me in a sales call. Then I can later offboard the underwriting to somebody else.
Love it.
Right, because that'll give me the overall view to be able to talk shop with the seller and think like knowledgeably about how I can dispo.
Now, I will tell you, and everyone should be listening for the way John's talking, do some self-reflection of what you're doing. Okay, I would say based on your personality and the things I know about you and what you have just shared, you will be primarily what's called an integrator. Okay?
I don't see that.
Okay, it's not here, correct. So I'll have to share with you guys, and I'll put it down in the notes below.
Okay.
Okay, of a book that I'm going to recommend that you read. But basically, it talks about, okay, what type of overarching person are you? Okay, you might be a little bit of two different pieces, but you're mostly more heavily an integrator. Okay, you like knowing about the little pieces, how it fits together like a puzzle.
Yes, I like knowing about them.
Yes.
At the same time, it can be a distraction.
Correct.
For me.
Yes.
You know, if I get comfortable and like trust, like I start to build trust with somebody, I would be happy to offboard details to people. Like,
Exactly.
I love details, but I also hate details.
You love the details, but yet there's part of you. That's why I'm saying you have a little bit of the second part, right, which is the visionary.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You also like seeing the bigger vision, and you're like, okay, but you can see yourself as the integrator, but yet you want to be part of this big vision.
Yeah, because if I don't understand it, I can't have a vision. So I have to start in the details.
Exactly.
Because if I don't, I'm never going to have a proper vision.
Which is why you're primarily an integrator.
Got it.
Okay. Raw, perfect visionaries, they don't need to know the details. They can see the vision and they just go, all right, let's make it happen. Let's go.
Okay.
And they haven't even figured out the details and they're already running down the street.
Okay, so maybe I have trust issues because I like to live in vision.
Yes.
But I maybe err on the side of detail so I can trust someone else to handle it.
Sure.
When I trust someone else to handle it, I like to verify
Yeah.
as well. If I can't verify, what good am I?
Yeah.
You know?
See, isn't it interesting? So I would say, yes, you're mostly integrator. Most people have both pieces. It's just all about percentage.
Yeah.
Right? You have some visionary in there, but the reality is you just want to be part of that vision, right? Making it happen. So you want to be part of a big thing and playing a big role to help make that happen. But you don't always have to be necessarily the one, painting the picture up here of exactly what it would look like and be like, I don't have to worry about and know anything else. Does that make sense?
Now that to me is a luxury. I would like that eventually. If I could just like delegate everything and be on a beach in Croatia or Greece or somewhere, I would do that.
Croatia's beautiful.
You've been there?
I've been there, yeah.
Oh man, I gotta go to Croatia with you.
We drove there. Yeah, we went to, Italy and
Awesome. Yeah.
all that with my wife's brother, and then we
Okay.
drove to Croatia because it was just a couple hours away.
It's like 3 hours. Yeah.
Oh, it was gorgeous. So that was fun.
Okay. I would love just to, like,
Okay.
trust and details, leave the details,
Interesting.
to graduate,
Okay.
from the
See,
details.
so what I could see is your underwriting part would be your integrator part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The sales call, right, would be part integrator a little bit, right? Because you like knowing, okay, I want to analyze like this person and see the pieces, but mostly visionary. Interesting. So there's your after thinking about. Now you said something interesting, John.
Okay.
You said before you got here.
Yes.
Okay. Why did you say that?
Well, you mentioned a lot about disposition, which I thought was, I guess, for lack of a better word, easier. Not easy, but easier.
Okay.
Than what I now am vibing. I haven't done a deal, so I really don't know. I'll learn a ton on my
Okay,
first
interesting.
deal, right? But disposition, like I imagine at first, this is why it throws me off in a good way.
Okay.
Disposition, at first I was like, okay, I'll probably have to wholesale some to cash flow the business.
Right.
Right, just to get some reserve.
Yep.
And then down the road, I would love a bunch of rentals for myself. Once I have enough for myself, okay, let's start wholesaling again.
Right.
To bring cash flow back. Now, that's not to say rental doesn't create cash flow. It should,
Yeah, but not enough. It's not
correctly.
active. You need active
Yeah.
income and passive cash flow.
Yeah.
People, you make enough cash flow from your rentals to basically, most people, it's misunderstood. You make cash flow here, but it's not enough to live off of.
No, unless you have way
AC
lots
breaks,
of-
other things
Yeah.
go like that. So you need this to be cash flowing enough to cover that, and plus some, right?
Yeah.
But it's not going to dramatically change your life. That's why when I first started, right, I've mentioned that I started traditionally buying houses and they were cash flowing. It was going to take me way too long to be able to actually have wealth,
Yeah.
right? So it's nope. Everyone needs to find a way to create a high amount of active
yes.
income.
Yeah.
And then you take that active income and you do things like rentals and things like that to bolster up so you can get either both cash flow and other long-term benefits that we can go into further.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying, okay, maybe I'm not as off as I thought here. Is wholesale to bring that active work, cash flow, and then use some of that to go acquire some rentals in this same conveyor belt that I keep, or maybe even a house that I keep without even cash flowing it at all. And then going back to making real cash in the wholesale and whatever other exit strategies.
So I think you're getting the bigger picture of how, and remember, we're looking at this from a whole company standpoint, right? And you being your company, etc., right? Or here's the other thing though, there's a little bit of a mind shift here.